Ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is my time to shine once again. Let's farm those dislikes. Embrace the antagonistic nature of ourselves on the basis of wanting a good fucking ASIM. Right, overnight, ladies and gentlemen, most of what I said would happen has fucking happened once again. So we're going to go through it. We're going to just basically assess the absolute cesspool that this game is turning into, and apply basically my usual delivery of truth to it. That obviously sounds very narcissistic and self-glazing. I will explain myself. If you don't know who I am, right, I am basically one of those streamers that all the goody two-shoes, toxically positive gamers that are currently destroying this game and now scratching their heads as to why the game is being destroyed have painted as an antagonist. I am basically the antagonist. I am the Decepticon. I am the whatever the fuck you want to call me, the evil version of your favourite characters in your animes, your cartoons, your whatever. Top dollar movie antagonist, right? Because I'm British, that's one of them. And I also don't have a filter. I am very unfiltered, which is what you're going to get in this video. So brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, because I have a lot to say about my favourite genre being held back for the past 9 years by a very shit, buggy, unprofessional, low-quality pile of shit that is not getting any better because the developers of it are actually fucking clueless and don't deserve to be at the top of this genre. I will explain myself as we go. I will relay all my points. Okay, so let's dig in, shall we? Right, origins of me first, because they're just literally farming the fucking game in front of your eyes for content, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I keep saying. They don't give a fuck about the genre. They don't give a fuck about the game. Nobody fucking cares, right? I do. I care about this genre. I care about this game. I want this game to return to horror. I want this game to actually be a fucking asymmetrical horror game again. Like it was in 2016 before they turned every map into fucking daytime because people started whinging about how it was too dark to see anything in the horror game. You know, all this kind of shit. And now every single minor inconvenience that is in this game gets fucking iframes slapped onto it so that survivors these days, new and old, nobody will fucking stick around and adapt to different killers. They'll just want to get carried through the game by all this second chance perk shit that is now added into the game that subtracts from the killer side of the gameplay, pushes for sweatier playstyles, and is the reason you are constantly being slugged in your games, because there is barely any fucking benefit now to being hooked in this game. Shoulder the burden, dead hard, DS, off the record, because it is relevant to a lot of the disdain you're going to hear from me about this game. My origins is I am an ex and also still active Evolve player. If you don't know what Evolve was, it was basically the game that truthfully put ASIMs on the map before this game swooped in like a fucking vulture and kidnapped the genre. Evolve was a 4v1 monster hunting pinnacle of game design, very well animated, peak atmosphere, setting was fucking phenomenal, characters had massive amounts of personality, both monsters and hunters, the potential was fucking endless, okay, and that was robbed from us again, as we drift slightly off topic here, by top content creators once again that are pretty much universally a fucking negative in gaming, because as soon as they see something that they don't personally like, they'll basically launch a witch hunt against that project, person, whatever it is, for the content, basically, which is why Evolve died, because streamers and big content creators didn't want to pay for their content, basically, because they'd later turned their careers into the very thing they were fucking whining about with Evolve by gambling in Call of Duty for loot boxes and all that kind of shite. So I have a lot of passion for this genre, and basically as somebody who has seen what this genre can be, as opposed to, and I assume this completely, I don't know if platonical is the right word here, neutrally, I do acknowledge that when I do deliver these points, and I do sound very spiteful, that there are people who just genuinely don't know that Evolve existed. I do heavily encourage you to either check out Evolve on my channel. I've got thousands of videos of it. I'm still playing it versus bots to this day because it's still actually playable versus bots. There is a small multiplayer community for that game in the Discord that's linked in the description of them videos. Just have a look. Have a look with an open mind, regardless of my character. Just see the common sense, will you, please, ladies and gentlemen, of what we could have had in this genre, right? Just because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, just because it doesn't have fucking Springtrap in it, doesn't mean it's a bad game, okay? Yeah, we can live without whoring our games out to licenses. The reason why the past, I think it's 2 ASIMs now. Yeah, we had Killer Clowns and we had Texas Chainsaw Massacre are dead because it's licensed and it's fucking boring, right? So that aside, that's the context behind me. We'll start this thing off now, right? We're going to start on the very controversial topic as well, something that is going to generate dislikes, but again, we're just going to say it because it's my viewpoint. The clown buffs, there's nothing wrong with them. The reason why there is something wrong with them, I'll just follow that up though, is they were executed in the wrong way. They basically, well, they didn't really character assassinated him. Again, I'm not Aaron Adair. I didn't write 200 pages for my favourite character, only for the developers to just completely ignore everything I say. Consider themselves, who don't play the game, wiser than the person who literally made a career out of playing the character and was trying to help the development of said character. But I personally, in terms of somebody who considers and plays multiple killers in this roster, I'm a Larry main, mostly, but I do like to play other characters, and I am sick to the fucking back teeth of it being a case of anything that isn't Blight, Nurse or Ghoul, you only get in basically a 10-game trial out of them before they become fucking unplayable because of how much second chance handholding bullshit now exists in this game, and the path that is destroying this game. We'll get onto that as well, because it's not a killer main perspective. It is a game perspective. And there's going to be a bit of an harsh truth delivery. I'm going to give you that on that as well. That will generate dislikes again as well, because it just always does. Because there's no getting through to these people that are currently scratching their heads about how the game's dying when they are the problem with the game. So Clown's speed on his bottles now is, some might say oppressive. I say viable. This killer basically went from C, B tier. I don't know what fucking tier he was originally. I just knew he was shit. Because a lot of survivors started fucking whining about how he's boring to play against, you know, because we're the centre of the universe. And Behaviour basically just decided to try and change the character in some way by a knee-jerk reaction to their favourite side of the player base. And it's backfired massively. But the reason it's backfired massively isn't because he's now OP, it's because of the fact that they basically just made it so that his pink bottles don't have any fucking use whatsoever. The speed increase that you can get from it now makes him viable at high MMR, because he can clear distance very quickly. What they didn't do though was they didn't factor in the other speed boost perks like Rapid Brutality, the speed that Save the Best for Last provides. Things like that in conjunction with the bottles themselves, so it does create some pretty fucking oppressive speed situations. But at base, in terms of his kit, if you factor those perks out, and again, perks is another topic I will cover in this video because I have a lot to say about that as well. The bottles themselves are actually fine. I do believe they are fine, and literally every killer that is below C tier, or below B tier, I'd say, below B tier, should receive the same kind of treatment. They kind of did it with Pyramid as well, and people are already bitching about Pyramid when they actually, for once in 9 years, have actually made a killer's add-ons do unique things. Like you can send his projectile out to break pallets now. That's good. But, you know, again, we're all fucking whining about it because it's something unique. We refuse to adapt. We don't fucking give it a chance. We don't try to play a couple of games against it. We just go, oh, straight to Twitter, write that fucking paragraph. I need this nerfing. I need this nerfing. I need more base kit perks, please, Behaviour. You know, it's obvious who I'm talking about here. And And, we're now in this situation where we're pushing things higher and higher in terms of survivor strength with all the second chance stuff that's now being implemented into the game. So no survivor can make mistakes. There's no consequences for playing like absolute fucking shit. We just need to be rewarded for our mistakes all the way through the game. And then it creates this gameplay loop where the only viable killers are now Blight, Nurse, Ghoul, and potentially now Clown. That's it. That's exactly the problem that's now wrong with this game. That's what generates the dislikes, though, fellas. That's why I'm the antagonist, because I say it as it is. I'm not trying to self-glaze myself. I'm not trying to big myself up. I'm not patting myself on the fucking back. I'm taking a little bit of enjoyment out of being the antagonist, because it is very actually in flavour. And I do find it quite amusing that somebody who genuinely gives a shit about this game and the genre that it's actually in is actually labelled the evil one. It is very Hollywood, to be honest, in a lot of situations, where they have the villain that's actually right. But, more power to the heroes. Because there is a lot of streamers at the top of this genre, mate, that they do tout a lot of shit, and a lot of it is just absolute fucking drivel that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but everybody takes it gospel, and it is one of the leading reasons as to why the game is now in such a shit state. Because again, as I've said in the past, a lot of these big streamers at the top that are trying to brainwash you into believing that this game is killer-sided will only say that whilst the wind dial is facing that way. As soon as things start to change, which is what you've just seen now, where apparently all of the game is now bad, it's all very bad. Oh, doomsday everything, they're all now saying that because they're just literally farming the fucking game in front of your eyes for content, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I keep saying. They don't give a fuck about the genre. They don't give a fuck about the game. Nobody fucking cares, right? I do. I care about this genre. I care about this game. I want this game to return to horror. I want this game to actually be a fucking asymmetrical horror game again. Like it was in 2016 before they turned every map into fucking daytime because people started whinging about how it was too dark to see anything in the horror game, all this kind of shit. And now every single minor inconvenience that is in this game gets fucking iframes slapped onto it so that survivors these days, new and old, nobody will fucking stick around and adapt to different killers. They'll just want to get carried through the game by all this second chance perk shit that is now added into the game that subtracts from the killer side of the gameplay, pushes for sweatier playstyles, and is the reason you are constantly being slugged in your games, because there is barely any fucking benefit now to being hooked in this game. Shoulder the Burden, Dead Hard, DS, Off the Record, We're Gonna Live Forever, that's around for fucking slugging as well. There is an out for every single negative situation for survivors in this game now. You only have to watch anybody, not even me. You can watch any small streamer, right, that isn't part of the big fucking conglomerate at the top that likes to glaze this game as killer favoured. If you watch their games, they're losing about 3 gens in that first chase consistently, as I do. Doesn't matter how good the chase is. The chase can be very quick, right? But they'll still lose all them generators right at the beginning. And that's the game state. That's the true game state we're actually in now. It is so funny, ladies and gentlemen. It's just it never ceases to amaze me that the whenever you do a video like this, you actually expose the player base to what actual passion sounds like with somebody who is actually concerned about the way this genre is going and how it's been held back for fucking 9 years at this point. They treat you like a monster, like that you're being too toxic, you're being unjust, all this kind of shit. And one of the principal things that I always say, moving on to the next topic here, we'll do a bit of a transition. Do you like that? I've got no script. Is one of the claims that I always make in my games as well. This is usually related to game balance, but this is now transitioned into universal. And there's a lot of people out there that they might actually try to discredit this when I say this. There was quite a few people who used to say, no, you're wrong about this. And I'll say a single fucking sentence and I'll give you 2 very standout pieces of proof, okay, that are actually real as well. And there might be 1 or 2 of these, well, there'll be 1 of these that you might not know about, but I've seen it, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've seen it with my own ears in this particular patch. So I'll give you the sentence, I will deliver it to you, something that I've said in the past. Behaviour, don't playtest this game or play it at all. They're just literally throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Okay? Now, here's your 2 examples. The first one is probably one that you've seen already. When you boot into a game, if there's an offering in that game, you'll get the offering screen. There is literally the highway bridge, which is over there behind Larry here in the background. That pole that holds it up, the side of the bridge, is visible on the fucking offering screen, right? You can patch that out as a developer by playing a single fucking round. Okay? You would see that shit straight away. It made it to live. The second one, and I've not got video proof of this, but you can actually search this up on Reddit because it is on the Reddit. This is where I saw it. Michonne's voice lines in this particular patch, when she is hooked, this is fucking gold, this, ladies and gentlemen. When she is hooked, there is a particular version of the scream where she'll do the scream and then you will hear a fucking developer in the background of this sound of her screaming saying, yeah, I liked that, that was good. Now, Behaviour plays this game. They play this game, fellas. I'm being too harsh, aren't I? I'm being too harsh. They've never done anything wrong with this developer, you know. They've never ever done anything wrong with this. They've been fucking on the ball for the past 9 years, you know. They play this game, they play test it, they play it at IMMR. The fuck are you talking about? You know? Kills are proxies for skill. Whatever the fuck that wank was, you know? Started comparing it to fucking hockey on a live stream, getting on the fucking iHorse, pretending you knew what you were fucking talking about when you didn't. You just made a fucking complete and utter clown of yourself. I think he got sacked, that guy, didn't he? But there you go. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen, you know? So, apparently, you know, if you... The knee-jerk response to a lot of my videos that Behaviour does actually play this game. So, if they do actually play this game, I suppose that just before it went to live, somebody might have snuck into Behaviour's HQ overnight and tampered with the fucking game files, I assume, to just insert this fucking leg of the bridge into the offering screen, or unedit Michonne's fucking voice files. Eh? So I assume that must be it. I couldn't be right. That's definitely what's happened. You know, definitely couldn't be anything else. Fucking hell, dude. And obviously, you know, there's numerous other bugs that have been introduced into this patch as well. Mintskull's got a good video out because Mintskull seems to be one of the only top content creators at the moment with a fucking brain that's actually, you know, using his platform to tell you how shit this game is actually getting, because it is getting shit. It is getting fucking shit, ladies and gentlemen, this game. And you know, I'm not going to bring Ots into this, as I say. Like, I'm not saying anything unjust about him, because I actually like Ots. I actually do like him. I think he's really fucking funny, to be honest. But I don't know if he's been like glazing it recently. I know Ots has had a couple of situations in the past where he has actually bowed out in certain instances. He has said, yeah, it is bad, this, and all this kind of stuff. And I think he is one of the big content creators who is there for the content. He is there to enjoy himself, and he does look out for the game in a personal sense, rather than just deciding, you know, what side of the bridge to stand on, because they have to make the more clip content, like certain ones, you know, ones that develop obsessions with fucking true talent, because he's like me, who has dry delivery and all that kind of stuff, and is right in a lot of things that he says. And, you know, again, it leads into a similar sort of flavour to me, what I've seen in the past, where they just witch hunt you because they can't stand to be actually incorrect and false. But because they've got larger followings, everybody just blindly fucking accepts their fucking shit and wrong opinions, because it's just the status quo. That's just what you do, you know. But as I say, my actual viewpoint is different from a lot of streamers in this game, obviously, because a lot of my vitriol and a lot of my anger with the way this game goes at the minute comes from basically me losing Evolve, which you're going to have to look at it, fellas, and you're going to have to look at it with open mind, and, you know, use a couple of IQ points. You know, don't go into the game. You know, you've clicked on this video, you're a survivor main and all this kind of shit, and you're going to go over to the Evolve videos and just like, oh, this is shit, this. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, it's shit. I don't like this. This isn't fucking... I can't fucking BM the monster. I can't chase it around a fucking loop for 10 minutes, you know, while the rest of the team kills it. You know, all this kind of shit. You know, running off, trying to solo the monster as a fucking medic and then whining about it. Yeah, it is what it is, mate. This genre had significantly better options than what we've got at the moment. So the next thing, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to move on to in this discussion video is perks, as I mentioned at the very beginning. So the perks in this game are, and this is I'm gonna bring some evolved knowledge. Listen to your elders, the ancients are here to speak, on why filling your game to the absolute brim with fucking perks and number changes is a recipe and just an utter desire for an unbalanced game, right? So to give you the context in Evolve, that game in 2015 launched with 9 perks for monsters and hunters. That was it. And you could only take one of those perks into the game with you, right? As a result, this was significantly balanced, and it was significantly balanced for the rest of the lifetime of the game, should it have had one, because you would only have to balance around one perk, basically, because players are only going to be taking one of them into the game, so you only have to play test and balance one perk at a time. And there was no plans to add new ones. This was better. The reason it was better, obviously, is because of now the issue that this game's suffering with, which is severe fucking content bloat, which is what this game has now got. There are so many different synergies, there are so many different problematic synergies that just are not healthy for the game itself, and this is the reason why now the game is getting more and more difficult for behaviour to actually balance it, to give them the benefit of the doubt, because there are so many different synergies that are now pretty much going unforeseen with how many perks are actually in this game. I've said for a while, obviously this is very extremist and they're obviously not going to do this, but this game would actually benefit from the Evolve route, where they just wipe the perks completely, give survivors a choice based on, similar to the class system that they do in 2v8, but perks, where there'd only be about 9 perks for every character. You could increase your break speeds and your vault speeds for killers. You could increase your healing speeds, obviously, for survivors, stuff like that. But you could only take one of these into a match with you. Everybody gets one, right? You can just pick one benefit. Nothing to do with gen speeds, nothing to do with move speed or anything like that on the killers. I can't think about what the problem would be with killers in that regard, but whatever it is, nothing to do with that. Gen defense is kind of required, but shouldn't be included as a perk. So yeah, probably no gen defense perks. You'd still get your kicks and all that kind of stuff. And then you balance the game around a statutory base generator speed, and you balance the game around killer powers rather than perks themselves, because you can you might as well just give up now balancing this game around perks, mate, because it's not going to fucking work. It will never work because of how many perks there are in the game now, and it will continue to be this way. I said in a previous video, I'm not sure if it's out or not yet, or if it's going to be out, I batch record and then select ones that are relevant when I record, that going forward, it would actually benefit the game if characters, both survivors and killers, were released without perks, so we can slow down the content bloat, basically, at the very least, is what I'm referring to there. Because it's getting fucking stupid. Like, there's gen speed, there's gen slowdown, obviously, but again, from somebody who plays killer at high MMR, it really is not an issue. Gen defense is really not a fucking issue, mate. It just isn't. Yeah, there's a lot of survivors at low MMR who think it is, because the rest of the team just don't do gens. They just run around like headless chickens. You get a team of survivors that does generators, mate, you will fucking lose if you're not playing Blight or Nurse, right? That's the state of what IMMR looks like these days, or as long as you main killers. Obviously, I main Larry, so I do quite well on Larry, all things considered. But even in some games, I can't compete, despite putting lots of hours into this killer and playing him quite proficiently. So it becomes this case of basically you reach the top, play Blight or Nurse, or expect to fucking lose, mate, because the game is getting more and more survivor-sided at the top, because they're putting perks to aid the people that are refusing to adapt, but also the new players. There is the innocence of the new players, but there is also the fucking hidden insidious side of this player base that are survivors that have been here for a long fucking time that refuse to actually adapt to anything. You just play a game against it, get fucking stomped as you would against the first time you play it, and then they just immediately denounce it. Take to Twitter, behaviour, can I have some Nurse please, can I have some more iframes or this wank? And that's the state the game's in. And behaviour are listening to this shit. And that's how you don't design an asym. That's another line I always use. Asymmetrical games, right? Be it horror, whatever. You need to balance the game around the power role, which is the killers. So you design the weaker role based on the power level of the stronger one, not the other way around, which is what this game does. We're giving survivors second chances and ways to fight back in every fucking direction of the game now, which is pushing a lot of low-tier killers completely out of the fucking game, mate. There are a lot of killers now that aren't fucking playable once you get out of low MMR. They just aren't. They physically aren't. You know? And I've played a couple of games tonight as well, because I'm recording this a little bit later from when it, when I left up. You won't know the cut, it's fine. Ignore it. But between now and then, I've played a couple of games as Clown, and I'm telling you, mate, I'm doubling down on what I said earlier on in this video. Clown's not an issue. He really is not a fucking issue, because there are people in games where they're rotating tiles properly, they're putting pallets between me and him, and me and them, and I'm literally getting 3 outed on average with Clown, and it's not a skill issue on my part, because I'm playing loops quite well as well. So as long as you know how to loop, you know how to tile rotate as Survivor, it still holds true that Clown is pretty fucking mid-tier based on what I've played tonight in a handful of games. But again, he'll get nerfed because there's going to be a lot of people complaining about it. There's going to be a lot of people that don't adapt. They're just going to get hit by a speed Clown in one of the games. Oh no, can't play against this. Whilst running around out in the open and being fucking clueless, because that's what they do now. That's literally the player base for this game. There are obviously survivors that do adapt, and they do make it to IMMR, and that's when you do see what good survivors look like, and that's when the game is fucking just a joke for killers. And it is also the reason why in your games, a lot of your games, you're facing blight, nurses, and spirits. Blightness and spirits, showing me age there. Blights, nurses, and ghouls now, because the MMR system in this game is also fucking dog shit and just decides when it wants to work, picks and chooses what fucking day of the week it wants to function, because in certain instances you'll queue into a game, you'll get fucking day one players, and then the very next game you will get a fucking esports lobby, and then what, you're playing pig, you're playing, I don't know, knight or anything like that, anything that's like middle bar, and then you get completely fucking destroyed because those killers literally can't compete at the top, So that's the state the game's now in, and that's one of the rants that I always go on about, because I'm somebody who, the inside of my head and my manifesto here, as you want to call it, with why I rant and why I'm so vitriolic and why I'm so aggressive, is because I want an ASIM where every single killer is viable, right? And a big part of that goes into what I mentioned a minute ago, where you remove all the perks from killers and survivors and you balance the game around the fucking killers themselves, because that is how you do an ASIM. That was how Evolve was going to do an ASIM. Had it, got its lifespan, God rest its soul. And it's significantly easier for the developers as well to actually balance the game, because at the moment, I'll fucking show you. I'll show you on the thing. Right, cut the gameplay a minute. Right, look at the fucking state of this. 9 pages worth of value changes. So we already know this doesn't happen, but at the same time, I'm actually gonna cut behaviour some slack here, right? With how many perks are actually in the game. Do you fucking expect, right, with every new release, a fucking intern to sit in an office and consider each and every one of these perks, right, when they're adding new ones into the game, where the problematic synergies would be, what makes them strong, what makes them weaker? It's genuinely fucking unfeasible. It is literally unfeasible to do as a game. But they keep adding new perks to the game. They keep adding more imbalancement to the game. And this is where we're at now. There's more and more second chances being added to survivors. There's more and more stun mechanics being added to survivors, to the point now where it's getting to the point where teams can literally boot in with about 12 different ways to fucking stun you. They've got loads of second chances that completely locks you out of playing the game if you're not playing Blight, Nurse or Ghoul, that can catch up and down very quickly. That's the state the game's in. That's why I rant, because it's going down a very, very shit path, and I'm fucking getting sick of it, boys. I want this game to get on its feet again, basically, following the death of Evolve, as I say, because I am an Evolve player, I'm still an Evolve player. I'm playing that game against bots and enjoying that game fucking more than I am with this game against live players, because this game is just getting frustrating to play as a power role player, because you're not the power role anymore. You really are not the power role anymore. And every time I log into either Twitter, Reddit, the Steam forums, all this, it's all killer favoured, killer favoured. I don't think this killer should have this in its power. I don't think this, I don't think that. So that, killer powered, killers are OP, killers are OP, all this kind of shit. And it's like, you're nowhere near fucking IMMR. And as bad as this sound, and as white knighty and as gatekeeping as this is going to sound, you don't have a fucking opinion. You really don't. Not until you fucking put your hours in and you actually get to the top of the MMR and you actually play both sides of this game, right? That's when you get the opinion. But there's a lot of people who are just fucking... It's literal cattle brain now, where somebody with any kind of following or relevance in the game will say some bullshit fucking claim, and then everybody else will start jumping on it and pushing it as a fucking narrative that's true. That's it. That's what it is. And because the developer doesn't play their own game, for the examples I listed earlier, when they the shit in the loading screens, and you'd see straight away. The chase music doesn't start sometimes, like it doesn't initiate chases, so M1 killers are now fucked because literal infinites have been reproduced because they don't get the bloodlust mechanic, Basic gameplay fucking features are going through onto live servers, bugs in them, And again, just to full circle it, as I say, I am as spiteful as I am angry as I am, and I sound as depressed as I am because I lost Evolve for this. An ASIM that had fucking mountains of potential and still does to this very fucking day. It's just got a very shit and brain-dead publisher that won't do anything with it, despite it being literally 10 years ago since it was released in a time that was very sensitive to microtransactions, and look where the fucking industry's gone now. So if that game was to be revived, it probably would do quite well in the modern age. But the animation quality, the atmosphere, the voice acting, the personality of the characters, the potential future, the game modes, literally everything about Evolve was better than this. And I don't want to sit here and say that. I really don't want to sit here and say that. I'm not being facetious or anything like that here. I'm being fucking genuine, because nobody else is in this game's community. Nobody fucking speaks their mind. They have to push this fucking dry, toxic positivity shit constantly about this game, fellas. And it's literally the reason we've got into this state now, where it's as bad as it is. Because behaviour just listens to that shit. There is nothing wrong with critiquing video games. As vulgar as I am, obviously, it does sound a bit bad on my part, but I'm British and I'm from the north. This is how we talk up here. But it is what it is, fellas. The game is going down a fucking shit path, and I don't want it to. I actually don't want it to, as weird as that sounds, based on what I've said in the past, Take me back to 2019 DBD, early 2020 DBD with 2016 DBD's aesthetic, and go from there. That's what I'd like to do. But we're kind of moving into a dead end now, fellas, with this game. It's getting really fucking stupid. And, putting everything aside and all this kind of shit and the character, the antagonist shit and all that kind of stuff, it is a genuine belief that I have, and I mean it in this as I speak this sentence in a non-malicious way. But behaviour just don't deserve to be here. They really don't deserve to be here where they are, considering the alternatives that we've had over the years and how much more promise those games have had and how much higher quality they've been, with significantly less bugs. The balancing of those games hasn't been anywhere near as bad as what this game is, but they've all died because everybody just gravitates back to this. It's fucking slop. It really is. But again, there's no reason why they couldn't improve it, Give me an example, cosmetics. What did I say in the Rift review recently? Tell you what, I'll come back to this. I'll make an edit. I'll show you what I'm talking about with the Rift. We'll just go full balls to the wall with it, fellas, for this video. Because I'm going to discuss shit that's fucking concerning me. Right, so you've got your Rift, yeah? So they've introduced Ascended, right? So the Ascended rarity, if you don't know about this, but you probably will, obviously, if you're listening to this. The Ascended rarity is basically a collector's thing. That's it, right? These replaced legendaries, which changed animations and everything, right? This is now the end of the past skin. Right? No animation changes. Looks pretty shit. We've got particle effects, cut them some slack, you know, we've sprinkled a bit of stink lines on his socks. But this is now ascended. Like it's legendary, you know, that kind of thing. It's got a fancy border on it, you know, that kind of stuff. This fellas, ladies and gentlemen, just to enlighten you, this is a purple night skin. Same as these. You know, same as this, same rarity as this. Where is it? This. Same fucking thing. No animation changes, nothing. That's it. Now, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, even this. This is a recolor. It's a recolor of an existing skin. Of existing skins, sorry, stitched together and combined into a new one, right? That is the same as this. This is a new skin, but there's no new animations, there's no new sounds, there's no new nothing. They used to do legendaries, which did do that. They used to add new animations in the lobby, and it used to have new sound effects and stuff like that on it. That's gone now. You know? It is what it is. It's fucking laziness. It is literally fucking laziness. Go to any other video game, any other modern games passes like this these days, and 9 times out of 10, at the end of their passes, you'll find some very high quality skin. That's the reward for grinding that pass. Because that's how it should be. You should get to the end of a pass, and it should be this really standout skin. Yeah? I'd play for that. What I don't want to play for is a fucking border on a skin icon. That's it. Because that's all this is. I don't give a fuck about collectability and all that kind of stuff. I want stuff that changes things in game. You know. As I say, it's all coming out now anyway, because I'm fucking sick of it, dude. But, you know, the general negativity that's above this game at the moment's... everybody's having a go at it, but this is it is what it is. This is what I talk about in a lot of my videos where I'm going on about how it's bad game design to keep giving survivors second chances, iframes, all this kind of stuff, because you're literally locking them out, locking killer players out of playing anything that isn't Blight, Nurse or Ghoul, and then you get the vicious cycle of all the survivors complaining about how I'm only going against Blight, Nurse and Ghoul, whilst also crying for more second chances to combat Blight, Nurse and Ghoul, which makes every other fucking killer more and more irrelevant as we go through it. It's like it's an endless cycle, but nobody fucking wakes up, nobody sees it. They see me making my videos and they're just like, ha, silly killer main, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you just shit, you know, all this kind of fucking wank, whilst you are actually destroying the game and crying about it as you are doing by just begging the game to play itself for you on Survivor. Because it is what it is. I play both sides of this game, you know. I'll show you on camera. Like, as I say, it's not an high prestige, but my survivors definitely aren't like fucking P1s and all that kind of stuff. So I am a Sable main, normally. P25, you know. It's a quarter of the way there, but P11. P10s, P12s, P11 on Dwight, you know, all that kind of stuff. I lean more towards killer because I am a power role player. I was top 10 in the world on Evolve on Monster. And I lost my fucking legacy for this. So I'm going to be a bit fucking critical of it, you know? It is what it is, boys, at the end of the day. But as I say, I'm watching with bated breath because obviously I don't have much of an outreach, so I'm hoping that for once in this game's community, at long last, some of the top content creators might grow a fucking spine and think for themselves and actually consider the game's health as a future in general, rather than just parroting the same fucking stupid nonsense about how this game's killer-sided and just feeding the fucking hamster wheel of endlessly adding iframes to the game, second chance states, pushing every other killer into irrelevancy outside of low MMR, and just literally ruining the fucking game, because that's what it is, straight up. That's what's happening. As soon as that happens, you'll see. What was the joke? What was the joke the other day? I did. I'm called Tainted Nem. I said Purified Nem. I'd change my name to that because then I would actually stop ranting, you know, and I'd actually enjoy the game, and I'd actually probably become a Singularity main streamer properly, you know, like the wholesome guy, you know, all that kind of shit. Go and watch me Evolve videos. You might see a bit of a a spite in my tone in terms of saying what a real asim looks like, but whilst I'm playing that game, never once do I complain about it. Because it is what it is. It's just, Evolve was a fucking far better game. It really was. But we're stuck with this. And I just have to sit here and hope that maybe at some point in time, before the game just sends itself into oblivion, that behaviour wake up, understand what the problems of this game actually are, with 50% of it being the fucking community, and start pushing the game back on track to being a horror racing again. Because at the moment, fellas, it's fucking shit, and it's getting shitter. You know? And as much as I'm behind enemy lines, and I'm the antagonist there for being from a different asim, and you know, when I said when we started playing Carnival Hunt in the alpha phase, and I said I hope this stays alive so it'd kick behaviour's arse and actually make them put effort in a game, I do genuinely mean that. But at the same time, I don't want this game to die. You know? But there's a lot of people now that are getting really fucking frustrated with this. I watched, and don't take this as serious, by the way, because I'm not saying this on his behalf here when I say this, but I tuned into Quiet Kills' Twitch stream, one of the killer content creators. He's known for being, he's kind of like the Jinxie of DBD. He's very loud and he overreacts to everything. He's really funny. But I tuned into one of his streams last night and he was very deflated, and he ended his stream soon with, there was 3 survivors alive and the gates were open. He was on Pyramid Head and he was just trying to 360 at pallets, and he was in like a really tired way. He looked tired when he was doing it. And he just basically gave up at the end of it and just said, I just can't be arsed anymore. Like, I'm not finding it fun anymore. I can't even bring myself to care. That's what he said. And then he just ended his stream. So, I'm not the only one. I'm just vocal about it, you know. So all the frustration that you hear in my videos, all the vitriol and all that kind of stuff, as I've said in those videos, but nobody seems to take me seriously when I say this, it comes from a place of passion. Yeah, and actually in a state of wanting this game to get better. Just because I'm killer leaning, and just because a lot of my points lean towards the killer side of the game, that's because I play killer and I'm defending my side of the game, right? But I'm also playing survivor here and there, you know. But it is what it is. There's a lot of people now that are going into games on survivor and then complaining about it because they think they should be guaranteed an escape. Escapes in this game should be rare. You should have to work for it. I said that in the past. ASIMs at their very core, very nature, should be killer favoured. They should be monster favoured, whoever the one is, because you're supposed to work around escaping that power roll. It's called the power roll. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. C'est la vie. Is that the right saying there? We'll just have to see how it goes. But anyway, I just wanted to do that video because that's me in a nutshell. That's the game state in a nutshell. That's everything crammed into one video again. But it'll probably fucking end up on r/whoosh again, because we don't listen to somebody who's passionate about the game. We just listen to my favourite streamer who's got a load of subscribers and wants to keep gaining subscribers, so it'll only say what actually should be said whichever way the wind dial is facing, rather than the actual truth about the situation that's actually going on with this game. But, you know, it is what it is. See you on the next one, fellas.